Welcome to the final presentation for Week 4 of GA103. We will finish our discussion of punctuation, grid forms, and layout.
Type hierarchy also plays an important role in layout and graphic design. It defines the order of importance that elements on a page are given based on their placement, size, and tonal boldness. It also determines what the reader's attention is drawn to first, depending on how the information is laid out and what is given emphasis. Think of hierarchy as the voice of the type, whether something loudly yells on the page, speaks in even tone, or even whispers. Within a layout, we often refer to large sections of text as text type or body copy. Remember that text should not scream, but should be legible and readable. You want to select a typeface that has variations in the family, so all can be used and the body copy and headline relate. You can also use a stand first. This is when the first few lines are set larger or bolder to draw the viewer into copy. Here we see an example of a stand first. We will now look at a variety of elements that can be used to enhance layout and design. The first are dingbats. Dingbats are beautiful small graphic elements that can be used for decoration or to add character to copy, such as stars, laurel leaves, hearts, etc. They can also be used to separate blocks of copy with decorative rules, swashes, etc. We also often find them used for listing items such as with designs such as bullets, diamonds, arrows, etc. Here are some more ornate dingbats. These can often be downloaded for free from certain font websites. We also find running headers and footers in layout designs. They appear on every page and will work into the margin of the pages and are usually not very prominent elements and are considered quiet. They can include the name of the book or publication and or name of chapter along with the folio or page number. Headers are at the top of the page while footers are at the bottom of the page. If placed at the top of every page, they're running headers, and at every bottom, they're running footers. Captions are also found in page layouts. They are sentences placed near the photos or illustrations in a piece and are considered to be the most important type on a page because they can tell the story with images and a few words. There are various types of captions. There is the narrative, a frequently long statement that explains what is going on in the photo and relates it to the content of the text. An identifier, which is short in length and identify only the figures and actions in the image with extraneous words. An essay, which is long captions, which should be treated as body copy since they tell a story along with a photo, and a pull quote, which are statements attributed to one of the figures in the photo to personalize it. It is also important to give credit where credit is due. Author bylines and credit lines that are given to the authors who write the text. They are either placed at the top of the text to introduce the article or placed at the end, where they are often followed by a small bio of the writer. Also, they are consistently used in the same typeface and format throughout a publication. Photo and illustration credits are also important. Remember that credits can vary widely depending on the publication they are in and are frequently small in size, 3 or 4 points type, and in all caps, which is easier to read at small sizes. Also, they are meant to be invisible or blend in with the layout, since not important. We often use initial caps to add visual interest to the beginning of a page or paragraph. They are larger or decorative capital letters that introduce a section of copy in an attempt to call attention to the text. There are different types. There is the stand-up, which is larger than the text type and aligns with the first or second line. The inset or drop, which is larger than the text type, but are inset into the text and base aligned with the third, fourth, or fifth line of text. The hanging drop, which is larger than the text type and are either somewhat or completely into the left margin next to the text, and a mortzing, which is when you back up the text along the edge of the cap. Here we see a stand-up drop cap. Here we see an inset drop cap. We also find sidebars as a way to introduce subsequent information to a design. They typically consist of secondary information related to the topic but remain separate from the article and can be set off from copy in a screen box at the side or bottom of a page. We also often find headlines and subheadlines. Headlines are the main dividers and set larger or bolder than subheads, which are secondary dividers. Subheads should be large enough to stand out, but not too large as they compete with heads. The designer can use type creatively in heads and subheads, and should be the most dynamic element on the page, yet integrates with the text and image. Here we see an effective use of headlines and subheadlines. This diagram shows us the positioning examples of many of the terms we just covered. I know it's a lot, but all very important things to remember when working with page layouts, as each element complements and uses the elements of design. Lastly, we will look at a few examples of good page design and layout. Here we have two versions of a GQ magazine cover. Notice how the elements of good typography, hierarchy, and layout are used. In this spread, we see many of the elements we just discussed, such as drop cap, headline, subheadline, and sidebar. This week we discussed typography and layout. We looked at punctuation in relationship to typography and also grid forms and layout. This is the end of the presentation.